All right, let's talk a little state playoffs. Yes, state playoffs. Let's talk about who the Shore Football Report is going to predict who's going to make the state playoffs. That's what we're going to do. We're going to look into the crystal ball, so to speak. Now, what you're going to see is visuals. You're going to see every single bracket. And I'm going to talk it through real quick, 3 minutes, 2 minutes, all that stuff right there, and scenarios. And it's going to be grouped in teams that I think are definitely in the state playoffs, are going to be state playoffs, guys that are on the bubble and need for things to happen, and then teams that are out. So it'll be 3 levels. You'll see records, and the records will only be where if they're favorite, I'm going to count it as wins for the cutoff. If they're not favorite, I'll count it as losses. I'm not rooting for a team to lose. I'm not pulling for a team to win. If the teams are neck and neck and it's like a toss-up, I will not include that in the record, and I'll put on the side plus 1 or 2 toss-ups. So you'll say 3-2 with 2 toss-ups, 3-3 with 1 toss-up, vice versa. All right? You'll see if they're getting a multiplier or 2 multipliers. So it's in the equation, and you're going to see my reasoning of why the guys are going to make it or why they won't make it with that. So we're going to have a little fun with it. All right? Who knows? Maybe I'll be right on a lot of them. Maybe I'll be wrong for a lot of them. But the bottom line is I'm rooting for all the short conference teams. And that's what we want to do, is make sure that most short conference teams are in the state playoffs. So let's have fun with it right now. Let's talk South Jersey, Central Jersey, Group 1 state playoffs. I have 3 teams making the state playoffs. I have Shore, Keyport, and Asbury Park. Shore, I predict 6-1 record with 1 toss-up. The toss-up game is going to be at Manasquan. Always tough to play at Manasquan. So they're going to be either 7-1 or 6-2. They're an easy fit going into the state playoffs. Keyport, I have going 6-2. I think they're going to go on a roll, and they don't have any toss-up games. So 6-2 will be their record at the cutoff. And then Asbury Park will go on a little bit of a roll and go 4-3. I have at the cutoff. So I think those 3 teams are comfortably going to make the state playoffs without a doubt. Then we have Point Beach. I have at 3-4 with 1 toss-up, and the toss-up games against Jackson Liberty. So if they can reach 4-4, I think they might be able to get maybe an 8 seed in one of those brackets. I really, really do. And Keensburg, I feel, is out. Let's talk South Jersey, Central Jersey, Group 2. I have Rumson, Point Borough, and Raritan, all 3 of them making the playoffs. You have Rumson, that I have as a comfortable 4-3 record, plus 1 toss-up game. And that toss-up game is against Middletown South, and that is this week. That's going to be a huge game to elevate their seed. They also have 2 multipliers. They played Donovan Catholic and Red Bank Catholic, so they're going to be getting those multipliers, which is going to put them way up the charts with that. So they're going to be a really, really high seed in any of the brackets that they're in, Rumson. So they're going to be either 5-3 or 4-4. And even at 4-4 with the multiplier, they're looking at it probably a 2 seed, the lowest. Then you have Point Borough, 8-0, and they're going to be a high seed. They'll be a 1 or 2. I'm looking at them probably being more of a 2. They could be a 1, but they're having Rumson as with the 2 multipliers might be tough to offset. And then Raritan, I have at 5-3, and they have 1 multiplier, which they play St. John Vianney, and that's going to help them in the PowerPoint thing right there. So you got Raritan, Point Borough, and Rumson, who I think are going to be all in the Group 2 state playoffs right there. Then on the outside looking in, I have Monmouth with 2-5 record, plus 1 toss-up, and that toss-up is Pinelands. And if they win it, they'll go 3-5. If they lose, they go 2-6. If they go 3-5, they can make the state playoffs. Let's talk South Jersey, Central Jersey, Group 3 state playoffs. I am predicting 3 teams are definite making the state playoffs. I have Ocean, Matawan, and Manasquan. Ocean, I have them 7-0 with 1 toss-up, playing Middletown North in a real tough game. Middletown North is playing good football. So they're going to be either 7-1 or 8-0 going into the state playoffs. Matawan, I have at 6-2. They're going to go a little bit on a roll. And I know they have a football game against Barnegat at the end of the season, but I think Mattawan is a heavy favorite in that game, and they'll be 6-2 by the cutoff. Manasquan is going to start going on a roll. Going to be 3-3 plus one toss-up, so they're going to play Shore in that toss-up. They're either going to be 4-3 or in 3-4, and with a multiplier of playing St. John Vianney, that will give them a solid state playoff appearance. So they're going to make the state playoffs. They have the 2 wins minimum, and they'll be in there. Now, looking at some other teams, Wall's an interesting team. They have 2 multipliers, but they're I had them as 0-5 and 2 toss-ups. They have to win these toss-ups because you need to have 2 minimum wins in order to qualify for the state playoffs. And that's a shame because they have 2 multipliers. And if they do make the state playoffs, they're probably going to be a home team. They probably would be. So they're either going to be a home game or they're not in the playoffs if they don't win their 2 games. Their toss-ups are against Colts Neck and then Manalapan. 2 games that I could see them going either way with. So Wall is either going to be their 2 wins, or it doesn't matter what their record is because they will not make the state playoffs. Barnegat I see as 2-5 in the cutoff plus 1 toss-up, and their toss-up is going to be Manchester. Well, I think they have to beat Manchester and also upset Mattawan to make the state playoffs. If they can beat Manchester and Mattawan, that will give them 4 wins, and they will make the state playoffs, I predict. So they got to win both of those games. And they're playing a tough Point Borough team too, which will be tough, but that will help their OSI. Pinelands, I have at 3-4 and 1 toss-up playing Manchester. Now, the thing about Pinelands is they don't have a very good OSI, and the teams that they're playing are not giving them a lot of points. So I do believe that even going 4-4 will have them fall short of the state playoffs. And it's a shame because they're a good football team. They've lost 3 games by 10 points. They're doing very, very well. And Manchester, I have them at 2-4 with 2 toss-up games. Their 2 toss-up games are against Barnegat and Pinelands. Them too, they don't have enough of PowerPoint possibilities with their schedule, and that's just a product of who they were given their schedule. So, I mean, it'd be nice if they go 4-4, but I think they're going to fall short of the state playoffs just because of their schedule. And Neptune is out. Jackson Liberty is out. Homedale's out. Now, Neptune has 2 toss-ups, but I don't see them moving up in a very, very difficult Group 3 bracket. All right, now we're going to talk South Jersey, Central Jersey, Group 4. Again, let me remind you that these records that I posted up here are all projections. And it's projected on are they favorite or not favorite. If a game was a toss-up, I didn't count it as a win-loss. I just added it as a toss-up. So the record is if they're a favorite or not, and then I just put toss-up. So you do the math and say it could be win or a loss. So let's go. I have 4 teams that are definitely going to make the Group 4 state playoffs. I have Middletown South, Colts Neck, Manalapan, and Jackson. And here's why. Middletown South, I have them at 4-2, a steady record with 1 toss-up. And the toss-up is this weekend, Middletown South at Rumson. Now, they have 2 multipliers. They play Donovan Catholic and Red Bank Catholic. So they have that high power points put on because of their multiplier. So they're going to be tough to be seated real low. I see them as a 1, 2, or 3, probably more of a 2, depending on what they do in the toss-up. But they're going to be a high team, and they're going to have some home games in the state playoffs, Middletown South. Colts Neck, I have as 5-1 with 2 toss-ups, and the 2 toss-ups are Howell at Colts Neck and Colts Neck at Wall. And they have 1 multiplier. They played St. John Vianney, and they got that multiplier added to their equation too. So they're going to be sitting pretty good, and I see them playing a home game in their state playoffs. And then Manalapan, I have at 4-4 with 1 toss-up, and that toss-up is going to be versus Wall. I mean, Dominic Lepore versus Ed Guerreri. Manalapan at Wall, it will be a toss-up game for Manalapan. But they also have 2 multipliers. They play Donovan Catholic and Red Bank Catholic. So they're going to be up, and they will be probably at least a 4 seed, maybe a 3 seed, depending on if they win that toss-up game with there. And then Jackson, I have at 5-2 with 1 toss-up. They have 1 multiplier. They played Donovan Catholic. They're playing Donovan Catholic, and their toss-up is against Freehold Township. Freehold Township and Jackson will be the toss-up, and Jackson looks pretty good at getting a home game for the state playoffs, especially if they win that game against Freehold Township. Now, looking outside, looking in, I have Brick Memorial and Brick, both at 4-3, both with a toss-up, and their toss-up game is against each other. So the rivalry game is going to be the last game before the cutoff. I think, and I'm predicting, that the winner of that game is in, and the loser is out. Now tell me that wouldn't be a huge game for their rivalry game. You win, you're in. You lose, you're out. And that's what I project. I'm only projecting that. And that, just let's keep an eye on that as the weeks go on, that Brick Memorial Brick Township game could be for a state playoff berth. Tell me that's not a huge rivalry game. Long Branch 3-4 with one toss-up, and their toss-up is against a tough Middletown North team on the road. Long Branch can kind of slide in there maybe. They don't have any multipliers, so that's going to hurt them. But maybe a 4-4 record can slide them in, maybe. But as the weeks get closer, we could figure that out. And Red Bank, I have at 3-3 and one toss-up. No multipliers, but they're going to play Neptune, that's always a tough game for Red Bank with that. So that would be that. Could 4-3 get them into the state playoffs? It's going to be tough. A lot of things have to happen for them to move up, and it could happen because there's still a lot of football going on during the weeks. But that's what they would need to potentially qualify with that. Teams that are out: Lacey, Point Borough, Lacey, Freehold Borough, Toms River East, Toms River South, Central, and Lakewood. I feel are out of the state playoffs already. Okay, now we're going to talk North 1, North 2, Group 4, and there's only one team, and there's actually only one team in the North brackets, and that's Middletown North. Why are they in it? I don't know. But I have them at 3-2 at the cutoff with two toss-ups in a very, very difficult Group 4 bracket. So they're in a bubble. Their two toss-up games are Long Branch at Middletown North and Middletown North at Ocean. You know as well as I do, they're two tough games. So they're toss-ups right there. Middletown North is looking okay. I think if they get 4 wins, they can slide in there. 5 wins, they'll be a definite, maybe a 5 seed, maybe a sneak into a 4 seed. I'm not sure. We'll figure that out as the weeks get closer. But to get into the playoffs, I do believe they have to win 1, and that's a pretty not solid foundation of getting into state playoffs. 2 would definitely get them in there, though, with that. So we'll see. But Middletown North could make the state playoffs. Do I think they will? Yeah, I think they will. They're a good football team. South Jersey, Central Jersey, Group 5, really tough bracket from outside the Shore Conference. Good football down there. I have 2 teams making the state playoffs. Definitely. I do believe that. Toms River North, who's 9-0. They don't have any multipliers, but they're being 9-0. They're going to be somewhere between a 1 and 2. I don't see them dropping anymore, and I'm only saying that because they don't have a multiplier with that. But 9-0, they're going to be a solid football team in the state playoffs without a doubt. Freehold Township, 5-3, I think they're going to be, with 1 toss-up, and a toss-up would be Jackson at Freehold Township. Freehold Township has a couple key wins. I think 5 wins plus maybe this one can help them in a home game. And I think they only been to state playoffs 4 times, too, in their tenure there. So big things are happening at Freehold Township. But I see them making the state playoffs. They have enough quality wins, and their schedule is good enough to get the OSI. I really do believe that. Now, Howell and Southern. Howell's 4-2 with 2 toss-ups. Southern's 4-3 with 1 toss-up. I'm making a prediction that Southern versus Howell in that toss-up game, the winner could be possibly for the state playoffs. I really do believe that. So that might be for the 5th win that I'm projecting Southern and Howell. So I'm saying that Howell-Southern game could possibly be for the state playoffs. Big. I wish 2 teams in the Shore would be in it instead of 1 in the other, but I don't know if 4 wins would get the other team in, but 5 would. So Southern and Howell would be a game for the state playoffs. That's what I'm thinking. Howell also plays another toss-up game against Colts Neck. So if they can get that 5th win prior to Southern, that would even help them with that. But that's what we're looking at. And Marlboro being 3-5, they have 1 multiplier. I don't see them winning another game. They're not favorite in any of the other games. So, if they can win 1 more game, yes, they'll be in. But 3 and 5 with a multiplier might be tough to make in that bracket. All right, non-public A, Donovan Catholic and St. John Vianney. I have them 6-2 and 6-3, respectfully, making the playoffs. There is no PowerPoints in non-public stuff. They reseed, so we don't need to really talk about anything, but they will be in it. I see them as between a 7 and 11 seed. Those two teams are going to be mixed in there. Nothing wrong with that. It's a solid bracket every year, the non-public A. It really is. So those two teams will make the state playoffs, Donovan Catholic and St. John Vianney. Non-public B, state playoffs, Red Bank Catholic. And again, they do not use PowerPoints in non-public state playoffs. It's all seeded. And Red Bank Catholic will be seeded very highly. They are the defending champs in a non-public B. So there'll be a 1. I mean, I don't foresee them being a 2. There'll be a 1 seed. They'll finish with 7-1 record at the cutoff, and their resume is worthy of giving them the 1 seed.